In today's video, I wanted to go through everything that I bought in January and show it to you because there are a number of things that I haven't had a chance to really show or review on my channel yet. So I wanted to take this time to do that, to have some comparisons where they're relevant for certain products and just give kind of mini reviews on everything so that I can get my thoughts out about some new products that I haven't had a chance to talk about on my channel yet. So if you'd like to see that, just keep on watching. Before we get into it, if you're new here, welcome. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel already, I would love for you to consider doing so. If you like this video and you like my content, I like to focus on high-end, luxury, and indie makeup. I film in completely natural light, so my goal is always to show products as accurately and clearly and as helpfully as possible. So if all of that sounds good to you, I would love for you to consider subscribing. So let's get into everything I bought. I think I've only shown two things that I bought in January on my channel already. One was the Makeup by Mario Surreal Skin Foundation. I did a full review on that. And if you watch that video, you'll know that I didn't like that foundation and I did actually end up returning it because it just wasn't something that I felt like I could get to work for me and therefore was never really going to be something that I was happy to have in my collection. So I did end up returning that. I also showed you the Oden's Eye single eyeshadows that I bought. So I do have a full video on that. I can link that below. I bought 2, 4, 6, 8 shades of their single shadows. So if you'd like to see all of those swatched and some comparisons on those, please check out that video. But the summary is I love these eyeshadows. I'm actually wearing 2 of them today. I used this one right here and this one. These are the 2 more purpley shades that I got and they are called Chloe. That's the lighter purple one. And then the darker purple one is Robert. So those aren't the main eyeshadows that I use, but they are involved in my look. I'll explain how I use them later on, but I think these are just absolutely fantastic. I'm really happy with all my choices of these shadows and would definitely consider getting more as time goes on, as I think this is a permanent collection, these single shadows that they brought out. I can't recommend them highly enough. They're really beautifully pigmented. They have incredible colors and the formulas are amazing. These are some of the shiniest, sparkliest eyeshadows that I have. There are different finishes among these shadows, but they all perform really beautifully and apply really nicely as well. One of the things I love about these is that I don't get fallout from them. So it's really nice to have these special kinds of shadows, very textural, without fallout. So that's another benefit of these shadows. Speaking of eyeshadows, I wanted to talk a little bit about these Rituel de Fille eyeshadows. Now, I've never tried any eyeshadow products from Rituel de Fille before. In fact, the only thing I've ever tried is their 3-drop foundation, which I love and hopefully will be coming out as a permanent product. But I wanted to try these eye Soots as soon as I heard about them. I'm on the email list for Rituel de Fille. And when I took a look at these products, I was really interested. So these are the Crystalline or Crystalline Matter eye Soots. And I got the shades Moonstone and Fire Opal in these. So I didn't know what to expect going into these. They come in these little pots, which is kind of an unusual presentation. And then the product is just in there. So a downside of these for me is that it's kind of difficult to get in there with your finger. And I do prefer to apply these kind of shiny, shimmery types of eyeshadows with my finger as opposed to a brush. And I find that that's the best way for these as well. This is a type of formula that I've never really experienced before. So it's not a cream eyeshadow, it is actually powdery. I found probably the best way to get product out is to actually just go in with your nail and get a little bit on the back of your nail. And then you can kind of put it on the back of your hand and you almost have to crush it onto your eyelid skin. I find I have to go in with my finger and just kind of rub it back and forth. You don't have to rub hard, just you can gently rub it in, but it really kind of needs to be warmed up, I think, with the heat of your skin and kind of melted into the eye to get the proper effect and to get a good application. So I'll show you the swatches of the colors. So this one is Moonstone. And I find the less you kind of lift your finger up when you're applying it, the better, because you saw there was some fallout there. but if you kind of just like keep your finger pretty close to the skin you're applying it to and crush it in, then it almost takes on the quality of a cream shadow. So it starts to feel a little bit more emollient, a little bit creamier, and you can see how beautiful and textural that is. The other shade I got was Fire Opal, which is this beautiful peachy shade. And so I'll swatch that for you as well. So with these shadows, it's like there's a sort of semi-sheer base. So we've got the kind of more purpley base there, and then the more peachy base. And then tons of iridescent, multicolored shimmers throughout. So that's Fire Opal and Moonstone. And I used the Moonstone shade in my eye look today, so that's the main thing that I have on my lids. I started out with the Victoria Beckham Cocoa eyeliner and used that as a base, so I treated it more as a cream shadow to blend it out over my lid and add extra depth in the outer corners. And then I topped my whole lid off with the Moonstone shade. And I would have continued with that in the inner corner and lower lash line, but I just was concerned that I was going to get fallout because of kind of the strange texture of this formula. So that's why I dipped into the Oden's eye and went into Chloe for the inner corner and a little bit on the lower lash line, and then into Robert, the darker color, for the rest of my lower lash line, so that I could have still kind of a monochromatic look, and the overall effect might be that it's just one eyeshadow, but I did actually end up going into a couple of others just for the ease of use. So I think these little shadows from Rituel de Fille are really quite special. They're not going to be the most user-friendly, but if you're willing to get into what it takes to apply these, I think the unique look of these and the effect really does make it worth it if you are looking for something quite special and unique. And just a couple of comparisons for Moonstone here. So there's Moonstone. That's the Chloe shade from the Oden's eye, and that's the Robert shade there. And then down here I have the Lisa Eldridge Liquid Lyrics in the shade Bianca. So these are certainly all in the same family, but there are some nuances and differences in tones that you can see here. Now I have a few complexion products to talk about. The first is this under eye brightener from Rare Beauty. This is the Positive Light Under Eye Brightener. I have this in the lightest shade, and I think this may have come out slightly before January, but I know I haven't talked about it on my channel, so I wanted to take a moment. I've been really enjoying this. So this is meant not even really as a color corrector, but simply as an under eye brightener. So to add that light, a little bit of radiance and brightness underneath the eyes. And I believe the brand suggests just you can apply this on its own, and it certainly works that way because it's quite a sheer formula, but it does definitely have an effect. Or you can apply it actually over top of your concealer to add extra brightness. And I think it works really nicely that way as well. My initial instinct was to put it underneath my concealer because I'm used to doing that with color correctors. But this really does work a lot better over top of concealer because it's not really pigmented enough to have an effect if you're covering it up over it with something with higher coverage like a regular concealer. But it definitely has the ability to have an effect over top of concealer because you're not covering it up with anything other than maybe a little bit of powder. The applicator is quite interesting. It's this little metal applicator, which is really nice. It feels very cooling on the eyes. It also prevents you from picking up too much product, and I find one dip into the tube is enough for both of my under eyes most of the time, but I find I have to kind of tap a little bit off there and tap a little bit off there before I start blending with the applicator, because it does do a good job of blending and the coolness of the metal feels very nice. But if you don't get the product onto the skin before you start blending, you might end up not having anything left on the applicator to do your other eye. So that's my little tip with that. But I think this is really beautiful. It definitely brightens under the eyes. It has a nice moisturizing kind of creamy finish. Feels very lightweight, doesn't really feel like anything on the skin. So I quite enjoy this, and I find it does make a difference to my makeup. It's not the kind of thing I need all the time, but I've actually found it to be more useful than I thought it would be. So there is the light shade there, just so you can see what it looks like. And you can see there's a nice light reflection on the finish of that. And when I use this, I prefer to focus it right where there are little kind of dips underneath my eyes. So not so much on this part, which would get more puffy, but really on this part where there's a little bit more concavity, just to brighten that up and lift those shadows there. Another complexion product I got is the Dior Forever Skin Correct Concealer. They've reformulated this concealer. I have the previous formula as well, and I loved that. I used that all summer. I had the shade 0N for that, and that shade is too dark for me in this season, but it was really my perfect everyday summer shade. So I would use it all over my face or just as a regular concealer. It had a beautiful kind of natural but creamy finish and just wore really nicely on the skin. So I was curious to see how this would be in the reformulated version, and I am a little bit disappointed in this. I need to test it more, and maybe when my skin isn't so dry, this will work better for me. But I find the formula to be quite different from the previous formula. This is much drier and more of a matte finish, and I do find that it sometimes picks up on dry spots on my skin. The way that I found to wear it most successfully is mixed with a little bit of my Auric Glow Lust. So I like to mix a full pump of that, then apply a little bit of this on the back of my hand as well, mix the two products together, and then apply them as an all-over product. So I will have to wait and see how this works when my skin isn't so dry, when the weather's a little bit warmer, but I am somewhat disappointed with this new formula. One good thing about it is that I was able to get it in the shade 00, which is a very light shade and appropriate for me in the winter. It's a nice neutral shade, not too pink, not too yellow, not too gray. It's perhaps a little bit pinker than I would prefer, but it's still actually really good. It has a high pigment level and covers really nicely, so there are definite benefits, but some downsides as well. The bottle is now glass, which is really nice. The previous one was plastic. But another downside is actually that this is scented now, and the previous version was not scented. So I don't know why they would have reformulated this, I think to make it vegan or clean or something, but then add fragrance to it. That doesn't seem to make much sense to me, but that's what they've done. It's just the same scent that's in many of their other products. It's in their Backstage Concealer and their Backstage Foundation. Same fragrance that's in those. And just for reference, this is the old version in the shade 0N. So they are compared, and there are the two shades. So that's 0N and that's 00. The next new thing I got is this Tower 28 product. So this is their JuiceBalm Tinted Lip Balm, and I bought the shade Shake. There's what the shade Shake looks like. I quite like this formula. I would be definitely interested in trying another shade of this. There's one that's kind of, I think, a similar depth, but more of a peachy nude. So I'd definitely be interested in that. I am wearing this today on my lips. I do have a lip liner around the outside of my lips, but this is the main thing that's on there. This is just a nice fresh pink. The formula feels lovely. It feels very moisturizing, not too heavy. So it's more lightweight than something like, say, the Laneige Lip Sleeping Mask. It's definitely more lightweight than the Victoria Beckham lip glosses. Those are some of my go-to lip products. So this is lighter weight than that, but still feels really moisturizing and nourishing. The tint is quite sheer, but it can be built up to have a little bit more of a presence if you like it that way. So I think this is actually really nice, and I like the presentation as well. It's just simple, fun, colorful, and joyful. And then last but not least, Merit brought out 4 new shades of their cream blushes, their Flush Balms. So I decided to buy one of them. I got the shade Stockholm, which is actually kind of a similar shade to that Tower 28 Balm. This is what the shade Stockholm looks like. And there are actually quite a lot of similarities between this and the Balm, so I'm going to swatch them next to each other. They're both these kind of cheerful, cooler, toned type pinks, but without a lot of a white base in them. So I think that will hopefully make them more versatile for a wider range of skin tones, because They're more of a kind of transparent base, and they don't have that white chalkiness that a lot of cooler toned pinks can have. So this here is the Tower 28 Balm, and then that's the Stockholm blush. You can see the blush is a little bit of a cooler tone. There's a little touch more blue in there, and that's the blush that I'm wearing today. I think it's beautiful. I'm really happy with my choice, and I think it's a nice addition to the range because it's different enough from their other pink shades to really have a meaningful place in the range. I wanted to compare it to some of the other Merit blushes just so you can see in case you were interested in this one. So this one again is Stockholm. Next to it is Beverly Hills, which is a similar depth but more of a peachy pink, so it's a little bit warmer. And then next to that is Cheeky, which is somewhat similar, but it's definitely deeper than Stockholm, and I find it to be perhaps a little bit more neutral. I'm not sure if that quite comes across on camera, but I just see a little bit more of a balance in the undertones there, where I feel like Stockholm is leaning more toward that kind of cooler baby pink type color. And then on the end here is Raspberry Beret, which is quite a lot deeper. It almost is a little bit more earthy as well. There's just more richness in that color, where we have a little bit more freshness from Stockholm. So that's all the new makeup that I bought in the month of January. I hope you enjoyed seeing everything and hearing my thoughts on them. I hope it was helpful if you were interested in any of these products. Let me know if you have any questions or comments below. I always love to see those. And if you'd like to see more from me and you haven't subscribed to my channel already, I'd love for you to do so. Thank you so much for watching. Take care, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.